Hi, everybody. Karen Roby here with Larry Dignan, Jason Cipriani, and Matt Miller for ZDNet, talking about Samsung Unpacked 2020, and a lot of information here to cover, you guys. A lot of announcement and regarding new devices, including, of course, the new Galaxy Note models. And Larry, we'll start by kicking it off with you here. Your thoughts on what you've been hearing?
So the new Note, the Note 20 and the Note 20 Ultra, um, I'm a little underwhelmed. They're basically coming at me with, an S Pen that has lower latency, which honestly I never noticed the latency on the Note 10, honestly.
Right.
So, but now they have this thing down to like, single digit milliseconds. I don't know what that means in practice, but it sounds pretty cool. Um, but for me, it's the Note 20 is really, it seems very incremental to me. It is 5G and it'll support all versions of 5G, which is nice, Verizon's and AT&T's, so that's a win. The specs are solid. I have a few nits though, and nit number one is that it doesn't have SD card support. So I kind of like buying a phone with 256 gig of storage and then tossing an SD card in there and making it more. Did I need it? I have no idea, but I like doing it. So they took that away. And which also brings me to my other point. So they have the Note 20, which is the base model, which starts with 128 gig of RAM or storage. And what's interesting about that is it starts at $999. So all that sounds pretty good, right? It competes with the budget flagships like OnePlus. It'll compete with the Motorola Edge that just came out, across all carriers. So you can see where they're going with the Note 20, right? They're making it more accessible. They're making the price point lower, and they can reach more folks with the S Pen. All that sounds great. The problem is this year, unlike last year, there's no middle ground. So if you recall the S20 line, they basically had a big middle, a small, medium, large version, and the price points were there to match. So the S20 Ultra goes right to a higher price point, and the the storage configurations are 128 gig, and then you got to jump to 512, and the 128 starts at $1299. So the other one, will be higher, like it'll probably be pushing 1500 when you're all said and done. So when you add this up, there's no middle ground, right? Your choices are pretty stark. It's a $500 difference between the Ultra and the Note 20. And what's weird there is just that, most of us aren't necessarily, $1,000 or $1,500 people, right? So, and then the specs aren't that dramatically different. So I just think the way they organize the portfolio is a little bit of a strategic mistake. And, like all things Samsung, they threw in a bunch of features. They have some really interesting stuff that, is probably way too early. The camera on the Note 20 Ultra looks, awesome, just like it is on the Ultra. But there's a size differential. But my biggest hangup is just that there's no middle ground. And I don't know if 128 gig of storage is simply enough. So by doing that and taking away the SD card, they're sort of boxing you into this choice because, I don't know if it's both Notes or the Ultra, but it's supporting 8K video, which you record in that, your storage is gone in a hurry. And it's a weird choice for me for the Note stuff. I mean, I don't know what Matt and Jason think, but that's my biggest takeaway about the whole thing. It just seems like it's a portfolio mistake in terms of how they're positioning it.
I actually agree quite a bit with you, Larry. The one thing though, the Note 20 Ultra does have SD card support, but like you said, you're paying a few extra $100 for that. And it does have the 8K video capabilities with the multi-mic stuff that they're doing, which is really interesting. But the Note line as a whole, I think kind of feels just out of place in general. I don't realistically understand why it still exists. I get that they have to have a consumer and a productivity device, you know, a launch of the S20 line in March, and then we have the Note line August, September, usually. But the two devices, the S20 and the Note 20, are very similar now. Why not bundle an S Pen or figure out a way to add an S Pen to the standard consumer version? And it would take care of this problem where you have a $999 Note 20 that's an okay phone, but no one's really going to want to buy that because Note users are going to want the Note 20 Ultra. And you have the S20 Ultra, which spec for spec matches what the Note 20 Ultra does. It just lacks the S Pen support. The whole lineup, Samsung's lineup as a whole, is overcrowded and overwhelming if you look at it from top to bottom. And so I don't get the point of the Note 20. That should be where the S20 lives. And then there should be an S20 Ultra Note edition or something like that.
Right.
And just go to a different release cycle. The lineup just doesn't make sense to me anymore at all.
Yeah, I agree with that, Jason. I'm a huge Note fan. I like the Notes. I love the S Pen, but I'm not going to buy this version. I mean, this is kind of what Larry said last year when the Note 10 was released, that it wasn't a huge upgrade from even the Note 9, you know. And I look at the Note releases and say, okay, what did you do with the S Pen to make it me want to upgrade? And only thing we see this year is I think there's 4 or 5 new air actions. Well, to tell you the truth, I never use the air actions on the Note 10 as it is because they are not consistent enough, right? They're not consistent. If they're not consistent, I do it once for a demo and then throw it away kind of thing. So I don't see anything when it comes to the S Pen even, which is the Note's kind of key feature, that really propels me to consider an upgrade, to be honest. And we're going to see the Note 10 drop significantly in price, as it always does when the new ones are released too.
Yeah, so the better deal might be the Note 10, which isn't exactly, you know, shabby to begin with. But, you know, the other thing that I think we need to ponder, like Samsung has the Note and they have the S20 line because they're making this distinction between consumer and B2B.
Right.
And I'm not entirely sure that distinction is necessarily as stark as it used to be, right?
No, it's not.
Especially as we're all working from home and working remote, like productivity is going to matter to everybody. And I think that's going to be Samsung's challenge in the future. And you know, this is the second year in a row where I looked at the Samsung lineup and I was far more interested in the Tab. Like I look at the Tab and I'm like, well, if I need to jot stuff down, I need a reporter's notebook. Maybe that's my S Pen play.
Right.
And that's the second year in a row that's happened. So it's sort of just my reaction to it. And, you know, I'm a Note user, Note fan, been using it for, you know, probably going all the way back to like Note 6 or whatever it was, or 5. But, you know, recent years, I've been looking at the Tab and I'm more interested in that one. And, you know, so maybe a mini Tab would kind of fit that bill. I don't know.
That's what I'm looking. You know, I was a huge Fold fan. I bought the first Fold, and the rumors are, you know, there's probably going to be a follow-up Fold this year. There's some rumors that indicate it might have an S Pen. If that thing had an S Pen support, that's all I need. I'm done with the Note. You know, I'd move.
Yeah, then I'm in. And I think that's, you know, so I think it's a, you know, I mean, the one really good thing for the Note 20 is that it does support all versions of 5G. So you are truly future-proofed, where before it was a little dicier. And you know, the Note 10's a 4G device. So
that's one thing I wanted to talk.
Matter.
That's one thing I wanted to kind of talk to you two about. Now I know, you know, Samsung's moving along with technology, and 5G, of course, has to be in all the new phones and all that kind of thing. But in today's world where there's so many people working remotely, we're in lockdown, we're in shutdown, I understand that technology has to support 5G, but to me, an emphasis on 5G doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, most of us are barely leaving our home. I don't care if my phone has 5G. Now, I'm not to say that Samsung's going to go backwards to 4G or anything, but is there really a need to emphasize 5G as a selling point at this time?
Yeah, I don't even live in an area where we have 5G coverage. So to me, it means nothing, and it has meant nothing. And if I was still, you know, the pandemic hadn't happened and I was out and about doing stuff, it would mean absolutely nothing to me. Samsung, at the beginning of their presentation, did mention how much mobile data usage has skyrocketed while everyone was in lockdown, which I'm having a hard time connecting the dots on how or why. It was a big number. It was like 50 or 60%. So maybe that's the angle they're coming from here. Although you know, the pandemic's not supposed to last forever. So future proofing your device for when you're finally able to go out and live back a normal life. I don't know. To me, 5G is not a huge deal right now.
Yeah, well, I'd actually argue the opposite. I actually have 5G reception and never thought much of it.
Uh-huh.
But when kids are doing remote school or SAT preps and it's streaming and they're streaming stuff on TV and then they're watching TikTok every 35 seconds, I mean, I upgraded my network. It's still getting slammed.
Is it?
Like it's as bad as the one I replaced at this point because it just can't keep up.
Sure.
And so if I kick everybody's ass out of the house so I can do some work, it's all good. If I don't, I find myself going, you know what? I'm just going to use mobile data because I know it's there.
Good point.
So I'm literally walking around my house looking for an Ethernet cord or a 5G signal. And I think so that actually sort of works out a little better, you know. So I think that's why Samsung's talking about it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, so it's sort of it's very counterintuitive, but it all just depends on, you know, and you know, I can't really throttle my own network.
Right.
Well, you could, but then you got anarchy with your kids. So that's a problem.
I like the way you position that, though. I wish Samsung would have came out and then I would have had an understanding of it, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like that. Maybe that's what they should have pitched, because that's becoming a reality, and that's why you're seeing the mobile data go up a lot.
Okay, right.
Because you're just dropping off your Wi-Fi half the time because it's just slammed. Yeah.
So the Tab S7 that is another device they announced. They actually announced two tablets, right? The Tab S7, S7 Plus. Matt, I know you've used the Tab S6 and previous Samsung tablets in the past, and they looked pretty amazing in what they announced this week. What did you think about them? I thought they were really interesting. The docking solution with DeX automatically being triggered and multi-window use looked really compelling to me.
Yeah, you know, I'm not a huge tablet user, especially now that we're all at home, but when I tested that Tab S6, I almost went and bought it because it's pretty affordable, and the S Pen with the ability to be attached right there to the back of it. And like Larry mentioned, I mean, that's the device to use the S Pen on and go crazy with it. And a few things I loved about the Tab S7 was the bigger screen option that they have, and then using DeX just on the fly on the device itself is really nice. You know, that gives you a nice interface. And then I love what they're doing with the Samsung Note upgrade. I saw a little bit about that, where they're doing a little bit more syncing and a little bit more collaboration with the Samsung Notes, which is nice. The one thing that I guess I'll investigate as I review this is the keyboard was pretty terrible last year, the external keyboard. So I hope they address that, because
the external keyboard was the reason I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
It had this weird, I forget what key it was, but you needed really, I don't know what, it was almost like you had to type with like a pencil eraser. Like it just was not, the keys were really small. It was just weird.
Yeah.
And the attachment hinge mechanism was terrible. So hopefully they've redesigned that.
Yeah. So if they fix that, then, you know, but that said, I probably want a smaller size Note. Like it's or a Tab that can kind of fit where that Note used to.
All right, guys, and if moving on to wearables here, I know, Jason, you write a good bit about this. Well, all of you will do for that matter, but what are your thoughts on, we can talk about, of course, the earbuds, the watch. Let's start with the watches here first.
Yeah, so the Galaxy Watch 3 is what they're calling their latest watch. It looks a lot like the original Galaxy Watch. I don't think there was a Galaxy Watch 2. I think they skipped a number like they did when they skipped Note 6 and went to 7. And we know how 7 turned out. But so Galaxy Watch 3 has a rotating bezel. It's a physical rotating bezel. And it's really fitness focused. It's almost like they're trying to split the competition with the Apple Watch and Garmin. You know, they added a new sleep tracking mechanism where it gives you a ton of data and insight into exactly why you slept the way you did or why you feel the way you do when you wake up in the morning. There is ECG capabilities built into it. They have approval in Korea to use it, but they're going to work on getting FDA approval to use it here in the United States. Two sizes, 41 millimeter, 45 millimeter. They launch August 6th. So as soon as the event's over that night, they go on sale and there's no wait. They're just available to order. And I don't know, I've always enjoyed using Samsung's Galaxy watches that run their own Tizen OS. I think they do a good job with it. It's definitely a leg up on Wear OS and what Google is able to do. And it's a nice departure too from Fitbit. And so we'll have to see exactly what battery life ends up being like. They said 2 days for both sizes. I'm skeptical of that because the Galaxy Watch Active 2 was supposed to have multiple days and it barely got through a day. But overall, it looks pretty impressive. A little big, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, kind of following on what you're saying there, in addition to the ECG, it also will have blood pressure monitoring eventually. And I bought a Galaxy Watch Active 2 Golf Edition. And then I've side loaded that BP app, even though it's not FDA approved yet, because that's an area of concern for my health. And I think expanding that'll be the first, primetime wearable that has the blood pressure monitoring in there, which is a pretty significant thing, I think, for a lot of people. Has to go through FDA approval and such, so maybe we'll see it a little bit later in the quarter. But it was also nice to see some other things from like Garmin and advanced GPS sport watches, where there's a VO2 max now in there.
Yeah.
There's some onboard coaching stuff. They did have a slide about running dynamics support, which is very interesting to me, but I wonder how they're measuring that, because most of the time when you have running dynamics, you have some kind of an external pod that you attach to your waist to kind of measure that. But they showed a graphic with all of the there's like 6 different running dynamics that are in there as well. So even though they kind of said in the beginning, this is the Galaxy Watch Active line will continue as the fitness first focus. And this is supposed to be the professional focus. Then they showed us all this fitness stuff. I'm like, okay, I don't see the difference here, other than rotating bezel and non-rotating bezel really was the difference.
Yeah. And they did say that some of the software features like sleep tracking and all this other stuff that doesn't require new hardware would trickle down to the rest of the watch lineup that is currently available. They refused to say what that was and when it would happen, though. I imagine the Galaxy Watch Active 2 will get the new sleep tracking and other stuff like that.
I just think it's a tough sell, because you got the Apple Watch folks on the one side, which is more function with your phone really than it is necessarily fitness, although the fitness stuff is catching up. But then on the other side, you got the Garmin, where, people are enthusiasts, and I see it. It's going to take a lot for me to, ditch my Phoenix for, with solar power, where it kind of tops itself off. It's going to be a tough sell for me to get a Samsung watch over that. So I don't know what that middle ground looks like. But I do know Garmin has like the highly active side of the equation. Apple has everybody else on the other side. And I question whether Samsung can actually thread that needle or not.
But the Apple Watch isn't an option for Android users. And I think Google has given up on Wear OS. Those are, I've tried several of those. They're just terrible. So I think I think if you're an Android user and you can't use an Apple Watch, this is a great smartwatch, the Galaxy Watch lineup.
Yeah, they pretty much have a built-in audience by default because of that, because Google's given up on Wear OS and it's horrible. You have Fitbit still, but they haven't done anything earth-shattering over the last couple of years, and they're still going through the whole purchase process with Google. And then you have Samsung, and that really becomes your only option if you're not a fitness enthusiast who's going to be running and wants a Garmin. You're left with the Samsung Galaxy Watch.
And I think the Apple Watch is
I also turn off all my notifications and stuff anyway. So the first thing I do out of the box is turn off all the smartwatch crap. So
yeah. For people who want a smartwatch,
I prefer dumb watches that actually support it.
Yeah, I get it. Trust me, there's days where I turn mine off too, but for the most part, they remain on.
And what about Jason? You talked a little bit about earlier before we start recording about the earbuds. What did you learn about what we can expect here?
So Galaxy Buds Live are they're new. They're the bean shaped. You may have seen rumors or posts about how Samsung's new earbuds look like beans, and they do. They truly look like beans that fit inside your ear. They're curved, and there's no other way to describe them than that. I can't think of a better way. And they're very odd looking, but they have a lot of features that compete with Apple's AirPods Pro. There's active noise cancellation. There's an air vent. Supposedly, I didn't quite understand this during the presentation, but there's an air vent that not only lets your ears stay cool while you're wearing them for extended listening sessions, but also is used to let in ambient sound. Like if it detects a overhead announcement while you're in the store, it'll let that through. But they do have active noise cancellation, which is a huge feature for any wireless earbuds, and puts them in direct competition with, like I said, the AirPods Pro. What was most fascinating to me about them was I expected $220 price range, somewhere in there, as they were going down the list of features. 8-hour battery life, I think 6 hours if you have active noise cancellation on. You get another 29 hours from the charging case. These are all impressive stats for wireless earbuds. And Samsung priced them at $169, which it undercuts even the standard AirPods, not even the AirPods Pro, which I thought was, a good opportunity for them. They do have an iOS app. You miss out on some features that, like, they have a new game mode for Galaxy devices. So when you're gaming, you hear footsteps better or whatever, but you get a lot of the same functionality, whether you're an iOS user or an Android user. So it'll be interesting to see which way people go if we see these white AirPods or these mystic bronze beans hanging out of people's ears. I don't know. They also launch August 6th. So immediately after the event, pre-orders and orders go live right then.
I don't think Samsung really cares about the price, because every time they launch a Note or a Tab or whatever, there's always some bundle to kind of bring the real price down. So my guess is the buds are just going to be bundled in with something else on some. So that dollars, the 169 price is probably going, in real terms, probably going to be lower.
Yeah, because I think they said if you buy the Note, I think the Note, you get $100 Samsung gift card, and then you get $150 with the Note Ultra. So, that plus probably free earbuds.
I'm
there's
sure.
always a bundle.
Yeah,
always a bundle. But it'll be interesting. I'm interested to hear what they sound like. I'm actually more interested to see how the hell they fit my ear. Like that. I don't know.
I don't know how it's going to stay in when I run, because I sweat a lot and I bounce around a lot. I'm very curious to see how they stay in. And they do have 3 mics on each bud, which is, I'm curious to see how phone calls, because that's something I look at a lot of wireless earbuds, and there's always people, okay, but can you use them for a phone call? And with 3 mics in each earbud, these might actually be pretty capable when it comes to audio quality like that. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And guys, one of the interesting things, obviously this is an online only event. Things are very different this year, as we know. And just a little bit ago, we were talking about with WWDC, how more people seem to be involved and interested, social media, there was more conversation. Do you think that will be the same with this because of the format and everyone has to just, watch it as it's streaming?
Vendors have not figured out the virtual event thing yet. So it just remains to be seen. I mean, I've seen a million of these events by now, and some of them actually crash during a keynote. Others are basically, they put out a lot of content, and you kind of go back. Google spreading its cloud conference over like 9 weeks. So I'll be curious to see how Samsung does it. My guess is it's going to rhyme a little more with what Apple did with its keynote, where it's going to be a lot of videos and stuff like that. But yeah, the interaction part is always lacking. I don't miss the people they plant in the audience to cheer and act like everything's a big deal. But generally speaking, it's the interactions, you're losing something without the fans, basically.
Yeah, it's tough for the presenters. You can kind of tell. I mean, they're in their home presenting to us, and there's something to be said for a live event where there's some interaction from the crowd and some feedback to their speaking. It can get a bit monotonous and things at times, so it's tough in this environment.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I just read a report this morning, I think, that said 22 million people watched Apple's WWDC keynote, which is a lot of people. I don't know how many people have watched it in the past, but that's huge turnout for an event like that. I don't see Samsung's Note event competing with that, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Well, any final thoughts, you guys, on how you felt when you will get pre-briefed all the time on these type of events, and you hear the rumors, and then you find out earlier before they make the announcements what to expect. But overall, were you overwhelmed, underwhelmed, kind of what you thought they were going to be unveiling, or what were your general feelings?
For me, it was about in line with what I expected. You know, like Matthew, I'm kind of waiting for Fold 3 or 4. Because that's when I think Samsung will actually get that right. And then, you know, you get a foldable device with an S Pen, then we're talking. And I kind of, and, you know, a camera that's on par with what you'd get in the Ultra or whatever. So basically, I just want everything. But yeah, I think that's sort of, you know, I think that I view this whole launch sort of in the context of marching to that day. And that's, you know, that's kind of how I view it.
It seems to me that I mean, we always see leaks in advance of these launches and stuff, but man, I was a little disappointed because we've seen everything, you know, before the actual event. I can't believe how much is leaked, and I don't know if it's leaking more because these are virtual events, so they're, you know, they're sharing more broadly than what they would do if there was a live event. But I was a bit disappointed that we saw so much in advance. But like I think Jason mentioned, I'm probably most curious about the Buds Live, to be honest, right now.
All right, you guys. Well, certainly should be interesting. Thanks for everybody getting together today. Certainly interesting to talk about what's to come and what we've been hearing and see how it all pans out. Samsung Unpacked 2020, August 5th. We will have much more analysis, of course. Articles, videos, all can be found on ZDNet, and we hope all of you will check it out. Thanks for watching today.